This is Aaron Wallace, CEO of Balance Your Fitness, here with another great health and wellness video here today. We're going to talk a little bit about fat. So I know a lot of people have some confusion about what fat is and the sources of dietary fat and how it all works in the body. There's been a lot of confusion through nutrition education and stuff we see in the media, and we're all taught to fear fat like it's the plague. I want to be able to go and set the record straight and teach you how fat can help you actually help burn your own body fat. It's a very, very important concept, and we're going to learn how to understand that a little bit here today. So the first thing we want to be able to understand is to kind of cut through all the kind of BS and media hype or misinformation about fat in the diet, is that we want to understand a little bit of the chemical structure of fat. So just bear with me. We're going to try to be able to get through this real quick. But we want to be able to understand what a fat actually is, so that way you can go and take that information and apply it, so that way you're not fooled by other people's misinformation. So when we talk about, there are three different types of fat that you can find out there in the diet. There's saturated fat, there's monounsaturated fat, and there's polyunsaturated fat. Then there's also chemical alternatives like trans fatty acids, and we'll kind of go into all those in order. So when we talk about saturated fat is actually one of the most kind of demonized fats out there. It's actually, when we understand how it works, it's actually extremely important for the body. So what a saturated fat is if you were to go, if you kind of flash back a little bit to your high school biology class, is that we have to remember that each fat is basically a string of carbons, okay? So a string of carbon atoms, single bonded together, so they share one electron each. So if we kind of go back, going back to a little bit of that, again, that high school chemistry, high school biology here, they share one electron each, and they have basically a very straight line format, kind of like this foam roll, okay? So this foam roller here basically represents that saturated fat, where each carbon is in its chain, single bonded, and it's completely saturated, quote unquote, with hydrogens. So what that means is that each spot is actually filled up. Each carbon electron is shared with either carbon or hydrogen. There's no extra room. So it's actually a very non-reactive and very stable type of fat. It doesn't react with other different compounds. So when we talk about other different types of fat, a monounsaturated fat, so what that means is mono meaning single or one, and unsaturated meaning with one less point of saturation, meaning that there's not as much hydrogen in an unsaturated fat versus a saturated fat. What happens is that to make an unsaturated fat is that you get what's called a double bond. So instead of sharing one electron per carbon, this is that at one point a pair of carbons share two electrons each. And what happens is, instead of going off in a straight line like this, you actually have to bend the molecule so it kind of looks like this. It kind of goes off on an angle here. All right. So that's how the shape of the fat actually looks like when you look at it under a microscope. Now, a polyunsaturated fat is meaning many unsaturated bonds. So you'll have a bend here, and then another bend down the line, and another bend in one direction. And so it kind of has this zigzag properties. It kind of goes all over the place. So what happens, though, is that these little bonds here actually are the points at which oxygen and heat actually destroy the chemical structure of the fat, and actually break it apart, and actually it breaks it into a cancer-causing chemical. So the more unsaturated the fat is, the actually more dangerous the fat is to eat. So when we think about unsaturated fats, we think about like corn oil, canola oil, soybean oil. Any type of vegetable or peanut oil is usually extremely dangerous fat to have. It causes a lot of damage in the body it really can cause a varied amount of effects in the body. Whereas saturated fat that doesn't have any of these double bonds It's actually extremely stable, and it actually can go and help fight viruses and bacteria in your gut and also the rest of your body. It's actually much easier to digest and absorb, so a lot of people with like gallbladder issues. And also what gallbladder issues can actually digest saturated fat more so than the other types of fat. And also the great thing about it is that it actually helps you burn fat faster. When you actually go and eat most saturated fats, like coconut oil, for example, those help to boost the production of thyroid hormone, which actually helps you burn more energy, and actually helps to improve your energy level and help you lose body fat faster. And the more fat that you go and consume, the more fat-burning enzymes that you actually go and produce in your system, with your pancreas. So actually what happens is that these enzymes, when you eat a food that has a high amount of fat in it, your body actually looks for other different fat cells to break down to use up these enzymes, because our pancreas usually produces more of these enzymes than we actually need. So a lot of times people who eat too much protein in their diet will actually end up breaking down their muscle tissue. Or people who eat too many carbohydrates will actually go and break down or start to crave more carbohydrates for these enzymes to actually go and function. So getting back to this is actually based off of a lot of intense research done by actually a lipid biochemist. Actually produced a very interesting paper on this. It's called The Skinny on Fats by Mary Enig. Actually, it goes through and actually explains how saturated fats are actually much more healthy for you, and actually how the hypothesis that saturated fats cause heart disease is actually totally false, and it's actually built on faulty research to blame saturated fat and cholesterol to basically go and offer you cheap and unhealthy oils to basically that are much more highly profitable, that you can go and that these companies will go and sell to you, claiming that they're healthy, but actually where they're actually cause a lot of actual disease. So how can we go and integrate these things into our diet? The best actual source of a saturated fat is, again, where you talk about coconut oil. Coconut oil is one of the best fats that you can possibly have in your diet. And because of the fact that it's stable at high temperatures, you can cook with it, and also because of the very wide health benefits for coconut oil, from digestive system health to improving your immune system, to improving your thyroid, to improving weight loss, to going and improving the health of your skin and hair and nails. There's more benefits of coconut oil than I can actually go and talk to you about. But why it is because of the structure of the fats that are in there, make it more resistant to damage, and also help protect us from environmental toxins and other different forms of environmental damage, from cars driving around, or breathing in some different type of chemicals. Those type of fats can actually go and help protect us from those things. And it's very important, again, to be able to go and understand that a lot of times that these vegetable oils that we've been taught that are supposed to be quote unquote healthy are actually extremely toxic. Again, a great reference for this, again, is The Skinny on Fats. You can just Google it. You can find it online on the Weston A. Price Foundation website. It's by a lipid biochemist by the name of Mary Enig, E-N-I-G. So it's how it's spelled, Enig, E-N-I-G. And it's got great information if you have more questions on that. If you have more questions about your own health and wellness situation to help you improve with getting to be able to lose weight and change your body, get healthier, don't hesitate to give us a call, or send us an email at our email address at info@balanceyourfitness.com, or check us out on our Facebook page or on our Twitter feed. And again, this has been Aaron Wallace here, owner of Balance Your Fitness, asking you to live your life in balance.